In the eternally falling snow, a teenager carried a little girl on his back through a gloomy forest. He struggled through the blizzard, hoping to find someone to save his sister, who was on the brink of death. How did things come to this? Kimetsu. Tanjiro was the eldest son of a large, poor family with a tradition of selling charcoal. With his father gone, he became the pillar of the family, taking on the burden for his mother. Despite their poverty, his life with his family was peaceful and happy. It was a late winter day. His mother advised Tanjiro not to work too hard and apologized for letting him struggle so much. But Tanjiro wanted to earn a little extra money to buy New Year's things for his mother and siblings. The children all wanted to grow up quickly to help their big brother. Just looking at them, one could see a precious scene that warmed the heart. And so, he shouldered a basket of charcoal and headed down to the town. Big brother, come back soon. But he didn't know that was the last time he could wave goodbye to them. Tanjiro was kind, gentle, resourceful, and skilled, with a very keen sense of smell. He could detect and understand things. So everyone in the town loved him and often asked for his help. The boy was busy selling charcoal and helping people until late in the evening. He was about to go home, but was stopped by old man Saburo at the foot of the mountain. He said that legend told of demons appearing in the night to eat people, and he absolutely wouldn't let him go back because it was too dangerous. He told him to stay at his house for the night. He thought to himself that he would go back early in the morning and everyone would be safe. There were no such things as demons. But then he remembered his grandmother used to talk a lot about this when she was alive. At dawn, he said goodbye to old man Saburo and followed the familiar path. Suddenly, he smelled blood, the blood of the most beloved people in his life. Tanjiro cried out in agony when he saw his sister Nezuko, covered in blood, holding their youngest sibling in front of their house. He ran inside and found his mother and the rest of his siblings all dead. That tragic memory became a painful obsession that followed him for many years to come. Only Nezuko still had some warmth. Even with a slim hope, he was determined to save his sister. Tanjiro carried his sister through the thick snow, constantly saying, "Hang in there." Suddenly, Nezuko showed strange signs, struggling and causing both of them to fall down a slope. When Tanjiro regained his senses, he saw her standing up, her face dark, and she charged at him. Luckily, he always carried a wood-cutting axe and immediately used it to block her mouth. She had lost consciousness, but had become incredibly strong, pinning him to the ground. "Have you become a demon?" He shed tears, calling Nezuko's name, telling her to hold on, not to give up, not to let herself become a vicious demon. It seemed that in her subconscious, her good self still heard her brother's words, so Nezuko shed tears. At that moment, a man with an emotionless face ran swiftly across the snow. He jumped up, raising his sword to strike the sister. Tanjiro quickly pushed Nezuko away, taking a cut that severed his tied-up hair. "Who's that? Who?" He noticed the words Demon Slayer carved on the sword. Tanjiro explained that it was his sister, trying to keep her from losing control. The man rushed forward and grabbed his sister, saying his mission was to destroy demons. Tanjiro explained that his sister had never killed anyone. Another demon had killed his family and turned her into this. He tried to explain, but the man didn't seem to care. Only when he bowed his head and begged did the man angrily say, "If you want to protect your sister, then act. Don't do these pathetic things." Tanjiro had no choice but to charge and attack. But he was knocked out by a blow to the back of his neck. "Is that all you've got?" But unexpectedly, an axe flew from nowhere, nearly embedding itself in the man's head. "This kid is truly formidable." Nezuko took the opportunity to break free from the man's grasp, but unexpectedly, she stood in front of her unconscious brother to protect him. The man realized that this girl could still be saved. Nezuko lunged to attack him, but he immediately knocked her unconscious. When Tanjiro woke up, he found his sister lying on the snow with him, her mouth gagged with a bamboo stick. The man stood at a distance and instructed him to find a teacher named Yorokodaki, saying, "Tell Mioka Ju sent you here. Please ask the teacher for help." And with that, the man named Ju disappeared instantly. Tanjiro and Nezuko returned home and made graves for their mother and siblings. He looked back one last time and then turned away decisively, holding Nezuko's hand and stepping into the endless unknown. The journey of Kimetsu Tanjiro to become a demon slayer to find a way to turn his sister back into a human began here. Tanjiro asked the villagers for some bamboo to weave a basket for his sister. Demon Nezuko was afraid of sunlight. She could grow larger and smaller, making it convenient to carry her in a basket on his back. Nezuko was well behaved on the journey with her brother to find the person named Yorokodaki. At night, she would come out of the basket and walk with her brother. Suddenly, Tanjiro smelled blood. Someone was in trouble. They both rushed to the house on the slope. Tanjiro opened the door and was horrified to see a demon eating unfortunate people. It lunged to attack him. He quickly used his axe to strike its neck, but demons had incredible regenerative abilities. They seemed to be immortal. On the other side, Nezuko smelled the scent of human flesh and blood, and her mouth watered uncontrollably. Tanjiro was cornered and couldn't escape. Nezuko immediately rushed forward and kicked the head of the demon that was about to kill her brother. Tanjiro was horrified to realize that his sister had killed the demon so quickly. But even more horrifying was that the demon's head could still talk. Its body was still active, lunging towards Nezuko. Its head grew arms and continued to try to bite and kill Tanjiro. Seeing his sister being beaten mercilessly, he angrily headbutted the demon, causing it to cry out in pain and release its grip. "You're not mistaken. Tanjiro's Iron Head is the strongest move in the entire series." effective against both humans and demons, and as strong as the breath of the sun. Just kidding. Haha, another headbutt and another. Tanjiro's rock-hard head stunned the demon. Almost knocking its brains out, he grabbed the axe, and the demon that was clinging to him was thrown far away, getting stuck in a tree. Tanjiro rushed to his sister's side. Seeing Nezuko being beaten, he didn't think twice and pushed the demon away. But in front of him was a cliff. Tanjiro thought he would fall, but he's the main character. How could it end so quickly? Nezuko grabbed his shirt and pulled him up, while the demon's body fell straight to its death. Tanjiro pulled out his knife, his heart full of thoughts. This demon had killed so many people, but ending its life also made him feel a chill and terrified. Nevertheless, he had to do it. A stranger's hand rested on his shoulder. The person wearing a mask said he couldn't use that knife to kill a demon. Could it be with a rock? The man smelled kindness from Tanjiro and thought he couldn't handle it. The demon's head had woken up and was mumbling curses. Everyone knew that in the distance, the dawn was breaking. The sunlight burned the demon's head to ashes. He stood frozen for 5 seconds. So that was why Nezuko was so afraid of the sun. Luckily, his sister had hidden in the basket, and he breathed. A sigh of relief. The masked man made graves for the unfortunate souls eaten by the demon. It turned out he was Yurikodaki, the person Tomioka Ju had told him to find. He asked him what he would do if his sister attacked a human. He was stunned and couldn't answer, so he was slapped. The man scolded him for being too slow to make a decision. There are only 2 choices. When that happens, one is to kill your sister, the other is to commit seppuku. Never forget that. Now he would give him a test to see if he was worthy of becoming a member of the Demon Slayer Corps. He carried his sister on his back and chased after Yurikodaki. What old man runs so fast? Tanjiro remembered the past, his obedient sister fixing her kimono, even though he really wanted to earn money to buy her a new one. Nezuko always said it wasn't necessary, and that he should save the money for their mother and siblings. Tanjiro swore he would find a way to turn her back into a human so she could walk freely under the sun and wear the most beautiful kimonos. When he and Yurikodaki stopped in front of the teacher's house, the evening twilight was fading. He had run until he was coughing up blood, but this was just the beginning. The real test was on the mountain. He left Nezuko to sleep in the house and followed Yurikodaki. There were basic traps on the mountain, but for a beginner like Tanjiro, it was quite difficult. He tried to calm himself down, using his super pro keen sense of smell to detect the scent of traps in the dark, and so, he managed to return to the teacher's house before dawn. He was covered in mud and blood, but he had completed the first test. Yurikodaki remembered the letter Ju had sent. He noticed the difference in the 2 children. Tanjiro and Nezuko were not ordinary. One had almost taken his life, and the other was a demon, but consciously protected her brother. Ju hoped the teacher would train and take good care of the Kamado siblings. Yurikodaki finally understood and accepted Tanjiro as a student. The Demon Slayer Corps is an outlaw organization established under the Yubuyashiki family and maintained for thousands of years. It has hundreds of members with a mission to destroy demons and protect humanity. The most powerful swordsmen are called the Hashira. No one knows where demons come from. They eat human flesh, have terrifying strength, are bloodthirsty and savage. The Demon Slayer Corps are people with a noble mission, fighting in the dark, silently sacrificing to protect humanity. Tanjiro worked tirelessly every day, honing his reflexes to become sharper. Nezuko slept peacefully to conserve energy. Every day, Tanjiro wrote in his diary, recording his journey. With each new page, it seemed he grew stronger, from practicing running and dodging traps to close combat sword training, and finally learning the breath of water. And then 6 months passed since Nezuko fell asleep. Although nothing had changed, Tanjiro worried that one day she would never wake up again. Time passed, and Tanjiro had become a strong young boy. Yurikodaki decided to give him his final test. He took him to a large rock and told him to cut it. That would complete his training. Tanjiro knew the rock couldn't be cut just like that. Even if he trained until his skin peeled off, nothing changed. The rock didn't budge even a little. Tanjiro was helpless and slammed his head against the rock. Perhaps he only needed to hit it a dozen more times and the rock would crack. But luckily, the rock was saved by a masked teenager. With orange hair, a white Harry, a wooden sword, and a fox mask, the teenager appeared and loudly scolded Tanjiro for not being manly enough, giving up on such a trivial matter. The person rushed forward and beat him almost to a pulp. Tanjiro refused to give up and tried to fight back but was knocked out by a blow to the chin. The teenager left the rest to the girl with the fox mask. When the moonlight shone, Tanjiro woke up. He expressed his admiration for the excellent skills of the orange-haired teenager. The girl said that she and the boy were here to help him train. Her name was Makamo, and the boy was Sabito. Time flew by, and 6 months had passed since their meeting. Tanjiro had learned a lot. His hair had grown longer, and his sword skills had become sharper. On that snowy day, Tanjiro fought Sabito again. He was determined to get close and win decisively as quickly as possible, and in fact, he did. When Tanjiro's sword cut Sabito's fox mask in half, he saw the face with a scar on its cheek smiling gently. Makamo also faded into illusion, strangely. When he turned back, Sabito in front of him had disappeared, leaving only the split rock. His sword had cut the giant rock. The reason Tanjiro won was because he had learned to smell the thread of opening of his opponent, and just needed to cut it. Yurikodaki approached while Tanjiro was still staring in amazement at the split rock. the teacher decided to let him participate in the final selection on the Wisteria Mountain. Because he didn't want any more children to die, he had made sure Tanjiro couldn't complete his final test. However, Tanjiro was a wonderful child. Faced with his teacher's recognition, Tanjiro shed tears. Yurikodaki prepared a hearty meal to celebrate with his student. Tanjiro cut his long hair to prepare for the final selection. On the Wisteria Mountain, it was the official test created by the organization to recognize new recruits as demon slayers. The teacher gave him a haori with a wave pattern like his own and a fox mask. It was a good luck charm he had made himself in the hope that his student would return safely from this trip. Tanjiro said goodbye to Nezuko. Then he confidently said goodbye to his teacher and set off, not forgetting to turn back and ask his teacher to thank Sabito and Makimo. Yurikodaki was stunned. How did Tanjiro know the names of those two dead children? The Wisteria Mountain was beautiful and captivating. Tanjiro arrived and found many peers participating in this year's final selection. The twin girls with black and white hair from the organizing committee welcomed them and read the rules. First, demons hate and fear the smell of Wisteria, so they cannot leave the mountain. The swordsman must stay on the mountain for 7 days and 7 nights without leaving, trying to stay alive and destroy the demons hiding there. Their final words were good luck. Tanjiro resolutely set off, breath of water, 4th form. And so, he successfully beheaded 2 demons at the same time. The smell of blood filled his nose along with desperate screams. Tanjiro turned his head and was horrified by the giant, multi-armed demon in front of him. What the heck is this? Meanwhile, Makimo asked Sabito if Tanjiro could win. Sabito didn't know, only that Tanjiro was Yurikodaki's most outstanding student, the one who could cut the largest rock. Would he do well in his test? Asterisk, the demon devoured the fellow swordsman. Its hands grew even larger. That friend of his, terrified, tried to run but was caught by its outstretched arm. Tanjiro, trembling with fear, was determined to step forward and protect his friend. The demon didn't care about its severed arm. Seeing the mask Tanjiro wore, it seemed amused. Another cute little fox has come to me. It laughed and said, "Is this the Meiji era?" Tanjiro replied, "It's the Taisho era now." It went crazy, thrashing about, unable to accept how many years it had been stuck on this mountain. It couldn't forgive Yurikodaki, the one who had captured and imprisoned it on this mountain, turning it into a plaything for the new recruits. It hated him and realized that the children who used the breath of water and wore fox masks were all his students, so it devoured them all in the most painful way possible. Like the orange-haired boy with a scar on his cheek whose head was crushed. In mid-air Sabito, like the short-haired black-haired girl whose limbs were torn off. Dying in agony Makimo, and 11 other children, Tanjiro raised his sword in fury. He had to behead the demon before him, avenge the souls of the deceased, and end this painful feud. It slammed him into a tree, his head injured and bleeding, and his fox mask shattered. As it reached out to finish him, Tanjiro regained consciousness and leaped away. What power made him stronger? Was it deep-seated hatred? The final sword strike came down, and the demon's head fell, facing death. The demon expressed all its grievances and hatred, utterly terrified. Yet why was Tanjiro's face so sorrowful? Perhaps because the young boy smelled the scent of suffering in the endless darkness of a lost soul. Had that soul found its brother and returned home? Perhaps no one wishes to become a demon. They just fall into a sorrow from which they cannot escape. Tanjiro reached out his hand, praying that this suffering soul would never fall into this sinful path again. He sent gentle sounds to Sabito, Makimo, and the pitiful children of the past. Now, everyone could rest in peace. They would do as they had promised, return to Mount Sajiri, return to their beloved teacher Yurikodaki. And if he sacrificed himself, he would do the same. The waves of emotion swelled within him. The haunting pain of wanting to save his sister, to turn Nezuko back into a human, seemed to give Tanjiro more strength. He completed the test, surviving, and returning to the first gate he had entered on the mountain. As the dawn cast a warm glow on the purple Wisteria, only 4 swordsmen remained alive after the selection. Tanjiro suddenly thought that because he had fainted, he couldn't protect his fellow swordsmen. He then suddenly heard the panicked and terrified mumbling of the blonde-haired teenager next to him. Sooner or later, I'm going to die anyway. The twin girls from the beginning appeared, regaining Tanjiro's attention. They welcomed the survivors, briefly introduced the uniforms and ranks, ignoring someone who kept asking, "Where's the sword?" Applause rang out as crows descended and perched on the shoulders of the survivors. They were chosen to suit the swordsmen, tasked with delivering messages, accompanying, and fighting alongside their masters on the path of demon slaying. The black-haired, scarred teenager angrily approached and grabbed the white-haired girl's head, asking, "Where's the sword? I don't care about these crows. Where's the color-changing sword?" Tanjiro grabbed his hand. "If you don't let her go, you'll be using violence." And indeed, a cracked sound was heard, and a hand was broken. The black-haired girl interrupted the chaos of the new recruits, letting them choose the type of ore for their demon slayer swords. Tanjiro took a deep breath and made his decision. The crow reported to the head of the organization. It turned out there were 5 elite survivors. Tanjiro returned, the pain and exhaustion making him want to collapse. But as soon as he saw his teacher's house, the main door was kicked open by someone. Nezuko slowly appeared. Tanjiro rushed down, stumbling. As he tried to get up, his sister wrapped her arms around him. The emotions that had been pent up for so long seemed to burst forth. In an instant, he was so scared that his sister would never wake up. He was so scared, not knowing how long he would have to wait. But at this very moment, all his efforts over the past period seemed to be rewarded. Both pain and fatigue seemed to vanish. Yuriko embraced the two children. Welcome back, Tanjiro. By the fire, he told his teacher about how he had defeated the monstrous demon. Yuriko said that there were many types of demons, including those who used special abilities, also known as blood demon arts. The road ahead was still difficult, but Tanjiro, you can definitely do it. As for Nezuko, unlike other demons who ate human flesh, perhaps she slept to recover her strength. 15 days later, the swordsmith named Haganezuka, sent by the organization, arrived, bringing the sword forged from the ore he had chosen. The man said that Nichiren blades were forged from a precious mineral that could absorb sunlight. Then he suddenly got close to Tanjiro's face, calling the boy child of burning light, a child with red hair and eyes. If you're born into a family with a tradition of fire-related crafts, it's a good omen indeed. Those words came true as our protagonist became one of the key factors in ending the 1,000-year chain of sorrow in the final battle. Returning to the story, he thought the sword would turn red, but when Tanjiro drew the sword from its sheath, its color turned jet black. Seeing the person opposite him trembling in shock, Tanjiro panicked. Could it be a bad omen? Yuriko reassured him. It's just a bit rare. While the swordsmith expressed his disappointment by pinching the boy's head, the crow flew in and delivered a message from a superior. Go to the northwest, to the town where a series of young girls have gone missing. Kamado Tanjiro, your first mission as a swordsman is to find and destroy that demon. Tanjiro put on his Gakuren uniform and his green and black checkered haori. His red eyes held a determination to face the challenges. Before he set off, Yuriko had a few words of advice. The Demon Slayer uniform he was wearing was made of a special material, so it was Super Vip Pro, resistant to heat and cold, moisture, and dryness. And even the claws of low-level demons couldn't damage it. As for the Nichiren blade, it changed color according to the owner's will. Because few high-ranking swordsmen used black, people believed that those who used black swords were all unknown swordsmen. Tanjiro smiled. Even though he didn't know what the path of a demon slayer would be like, he would turn Nezuko back into a human. The most simple and primal purpose of Kamado Tanjiro from the very beginning was just to save his sister. Not status, not a high position in the Demon Slayer Corps, and certainly not an obsessive hatred to destroy all demons. Yuriko gave Tanjiro a wooden box handmade from ultralight mist cedar to help him carry his sister under the sun. Nezuko obeyed her brother, shrinking herself and climbing into the box. Tanjiro smiled. From now on, we'll always be together, okay? The young Kamado said goodbye to his teacher and set off on a new path with thorns and challenges awaiting. Tanjiro arrived at the town as instructed. He saw a man looking haggard, suffering because his lover had disappeared without a trace. Gruesome rumors about the mysterious disappearances every night flowed into his ears. Tanjiro ran over to ask the man named Kazumi about it. He believed his words. The place where Satoko disappeared was right in the middle of the road. Tanjiro sniffed, and the faint smell of a demon still lingered. Kazumi touched the wound on his face, where he had received the punch from Satoko's father because of his daughter's absurd disappearance. Tanjiro went to every corner, sniffing. He needed to know where the demon's next victim would be so he could ambush it. A black puddle appeared in the bedroom, and two hands emerged, pulling a girl into the water. Tanjiro immediately noticed the abnormality. The smell was stronger. The demon had appeared. He immediately moved towards that house. He pinpointed the location of the strongest smell, made a cut with his blade, and immediately carried the girl up. He discovered the emerging demon was a special type, using the blood demon art that his teacher had mentioned. He asked Kazumi to carry this girl and stand close to him so he could protect them both. When Tanjiro detected its smell and swung his sword, three demons emerged and grabbed his leg. Taking a deep breath, Tanjiro swung his sword. He remembered Yuriko words, in this world, there's only one who uses blood to turn people into demons, and that is your family's enemy. And perhaps he knows how to turn Nezuko back into a human. His name is Kibutsuji Musen. Tanjiro was extremely cautious, not forgetting to protect the two people behind him. He had to find a way to destroy the three demon clones. The demon roared. If that little girl passes the age of 16, her flesh and blood will no longer be fresh. Which made Tanjiro's face turn gray with disgust. Another demon emerged, boasting of its achievements. They call each other myself as if they were different personalities, existing in one body with some discord. Kazumi, hearing the story, hurriedly begged them to return Satoko and the others, who had disappeared. The grating sound of the third demon's grinding teeth was uncontrollably chilling, along with the casual voice of the second demon asking, "Who's Satoko?" Then showing off its perverse hobby of collecting the hairpins of girls. Before eating them, there was the red ribbon of his lover. A burst of anger exploded in Tanjiro, remembering his beloved family who were also cruelly killed and his sister who was no longer human. His veins bulged with anger. The three demons attacked at the same time, cornering Tanjiro and leaving him no room to react. As a demon's hand was about to pierce his eye, a foot from behind kicked its head, making it spin like a top. Nezuko had woken up, protecting her brother. The other demon was full of question marks. Why is a demon slayer carrying a demon and helping each other? Nezuko looked at the cowardly demons with hatred, playing the escape card, then gently turned to look at the two people, her mind seeing an illusion of her two younger siblings from before. She reached out and caressed their faces. The love for her family urged her to fight, Yuriko Dake had once told Tanjiro that while Nezuko slept, he had put a suggestion into her mind: humans are your family. Protect humans. Demons are your mortal enemies. Do not spare any demon who dares to harm humans. Nezuko rushed forward and delivered a heavenly kick to the ground. But the demon had the ability to teleport and dodged. Tanjiro called her back, giving her the task of protecting those two, while he went down into the puddle to attack. The space was covered in a murky water, scattered with the kimonos and personal belongings of the abducted people. He could not forgive this heinous crime. The two demons looked down on him for being foolish enough to enter this dark and breathless water. They lunged to tear him apart, but they didn't know that Tanjiro had trained on Mount Sajiri, where the air was even thinner, and that his entering the enemy's den was for a reason. Sixth form. In a water environment, his power would be maximized. A swirling vortex of waves cut the two demon clones into dozens of pieces. Tanjiro looked at the floating body parts without a ripple in his heart. He suddenly reached out and grabbed a piece of black cloth, then surfaced up here. Nezuko was fighting the remaining clone. Her formidable physical strength surprised the demon. Without special abilities, yet incredibly strong, it proved that the girl opposite her had been given a lot of his blood, but it had also gotten used to Nezuko's simple attacks, turning the tide and scratching her forehead. As the demon's hand was about to stab her eye, her brother flew from the puddle and cut off its arm. Another slash, and the other arm was gone. Tanjiro asked it how many people it had eaten. Faced with his blade, it was still unrepentant and cursed him, saying he should be grateful to demons. Before it could finish its nonsensical words, Tanjiro slit its mouth. He ordered it to reveal everything it knew about Kibutsuji Musen, or it would lose its head. But it was too terrified to speak, trembling in fear, then went crazy and attacked him. And of course, Tanjiro sent it to hell with the other two clones. He ran to check on his sister's condition, put her in the box, then checked on Kazumi, who was still in a daze. He advised him that no matter how much loss he had to endure, he must live on strongly. Kazumi became angry, grabbing Tanjiro's collar and shouting, "The pain of losing my fiancé, how could you understand?" Tanjiro gently took his hand, giving a gentle but sad smile. He had to leave. It was already morning. He returned the bag containing the victim's belongings. Kazumi opened it, saw the red ribbon of his pitiful fiancé, and couldn't help but cry. He watched the young boy's back as he walked towards the light, shouting an apology. He realized that Rough Hand had endured so much pain and hardship in training. Not the hand of a normal teenager. Tanjiro handed the still unconscious girl to him and then walked under the sun. He was determined not to forgive Musen, the leader who caused the tragedies of this world. A crow delivered another rumor. A demon was hiding in Asakusa, Tokyo. He was ordered to go there immediately, in the magnificent, brightly lit capital. Tanjiro and Nezuko arrived. The young Kamado, who had lived in the mountains for so long, was overwhelmed by the development of the city. My head is spinning. He had to lead his sister to find a Yamuden stall, away from the bustling crowd. But just as he took a sip of the delicious broth, a disgusting smell hit his nostrils. It was the smell of his lifelong arch-nemesis, the one who had murdered his family, the demon lord Kibutsuji Musen. He was dazed, sniffing, then followed the trail of that person in the city. When his hand touched the person's shoulder, he turned his face, looking at him with confused red eyes. Tanjiro drew his sword, then was frozen by a child's voice. The child in Musen's arms asked, "Daddy, what's wrong?" He realized he was living, in the guise of a human, a small family in front of him. Didn't those realize he was a demon? Musen brazenly scratched the neck of a passerby, turning him into a demon in an instant, who then attacked his wife. Witnessing this, Tanjiro was enraged and ran to stop him. Tanjiro quickly stuffed a cloth into the mouth of the man who had turned into a demon, while constantly reminding everyone to give first aid to the girl. Meanwhile, Musen and his wife and child quietly left, as if minding their own business. The internal struggle between holding onto the demon in his hands, to prevent it from harming others and letting his greatest enemy escape. A conflict tore through Tanjiro's mind. He shouted that he would definitely find and behead Musen no matter where he hid. Two police officers saw the brawl and ran over to intervene. Tanjiro refused to let go, saying that only he could hold this person, and absolutely would not let him harm anyone. His words caused a stir among the public, who doubted him, thinking he had lost his mind. As a police officer raised his baton to strike, 1,000 flowers bloomed, their fragrance causing people to fall into a dream. A female demon used her blood demon art to create an illusion to protect the young Kamado. The woman appeared with a young boy following behind. Moved by Tanjiro's compassion for saving people and cherishing the pitiful person who had been turned into a demon, she said she would help him. Tanjiro was amazed, unable to believe his eyes. Yes, she is a demon, but also a doctor, and is determined to destroy the man named Kibutsuji. On this side, Musen said goodbye to his wife and child. He said he still had business to discuss with a merchant, and wanted to investigate the commotion earlier. After putting his small family in a car to return to their mansion, he went into an alley. He casually killed 3 people who had dared to laugh at his lifeless complexion. Quickly and painfully, Musen summoned his subordinate, ordering him to find the demon slayer with flower card earrings and bring his head to him. A terrifying feeling washed over him, as memories of the past flooded his mind. In the hazy mist, the person wearing those earrings held a red-hot sword, looking down on him arrogantly. As for Tanjiro, he was being interrogated by the Yuden seller, because the boy had run off without eating a single strand of noodle. That really hurts a chef's feelings. Then he turned to question Nezuko, who had been sitting there all this time. How can you eat Yun with a bamboo gag like that? Tanjiro immediately ordered to bowls, and slurped them down to the surprise and delight of the seller. Tanjiro apologized to Nezuko for making her wait in front of them. The young boy who was with the female demon earlier was waiting for them and said that, at the lady's request, he would take them to see her. He expressed his attitude towards Nezuko. Isn't she also a demon and a country girl? At that, this made Tanjiro indignant. My sister is a renowned beauty in our region. How dare you criticize her appearance? When they arrived at the lady's secret residence, the three of them entered a magical wall. It turned out that behind the dead end was the mansion where the lady lived and treated humans. Tanjiro inadvertently asked a rude question. When you treat humans, don't you feel uncomfortable? He was immediately punched in the chest by the young boy. The woman said her name was Tamayo, and he was Yushiro, hoping the two would get along. Tamayo explained that she had modified her body, so her bloodlust instinct no longer controlled her. Just injecting a very small amount of human blood into her body could sustain her life. She used the pretext of blood transfusions to buy blood from people who had no money and used it. Tamayo continued, I was the one who turned Yushiro into a demon. This astonished Tanjiro. Normally, only Muzan should have that ability. Tamayo said that whether she turned a sick person into a demon or not, she always asked for their decision. Tanjiro smelled a pure, honest scent and confidently expressed his own desire. Tamayo-san, is there a way to turn a demon back into a human? Outside, two of Muzan's demon subordinates had arrived. Tamayo-sama continued, saying that there was currently no way, but she would definitely find a cure, on the condition that he help her obtain blood samples from Muzan's closest subordinates, and allow her to test his sister's blood. Nezuko was a miracle, having turned into a demon and hibernated for 2 years without becoming violent or bloodthirsty upon waking. Perhaps she would create some kind of miracle. Tamayo's gentle words seemed to stir a hope in Tanjiro. Obtaining blood from demons as strong as those close to Muzan was extremely dangerous. However, there was no other way. Tanjiro would still do it. He knew that it meant not only his sister, but also many other pitiful humans out there would be cured. Suddenly, two balls appeared, destroying the entire room. Tanjiro protected his sister while Yushiro shielded Tamayo-sama. Muzan's subordinates had broken into their secret residence. Their savage fun had officially begun. The ball was thrown, shattering Yushiro's head as he tried to protect his lady. Tanjiro told Nezuko to move the woman on the sick to a safe place. According to Tamayo-sama, it's in the basement. According to the female demon, their target was the swordsman with the flower card earrings. Tanjiro advised Tamayo to hide because they were targeting him, but Tamayo told Tanjiro that they were demons, so he didn't need to worry. The ball flew straight towards his head. Tanjiro took a breath, made a judgment, and used his seventh form to stab it head-on. Unexpectedly, the ball pulled itself out. Behind him, Yushiro's head grew back, and he spoke in anger. Because his cloaking technique was not perfect, he didn't want to call those to hear in the first place. Yushiro hated those who dared to destroy his and Tamayo's space. The female demon sneered, claiming to be one of the strongest of the 12 Kazuki. To die at her hands is an honor. She grew for more arms, and for more balls appeared, continuously overwhelming the home team. Yushiro threw a talisman to Tanjiro, borrowing his sight so he could see the direction of the ball's movement. Nezuko had returned, and immediately followed her brother's orders to go outside and attack the demon on the tree. The arrow demon was hit by a rock, and the direction of the ball's movement immediately disappeared. Tanjiro swung his sword and neatly cut off the female demon's 6 arms. If they are the 12 Kazuki, you must be more careful. You must destroy them at all costs. Nezuko fell, and Tanjiro caught her, dodging the female demon's ball. Yushiro suddenly spoke loudly, asking him to focus on killing the arrow demon. He and his sister would take care of the ball-throwing demon. Nezuko looked up, seemingly seeing an illusion of her mother and younger sibling waiting for her. The will within her seemed to ignite into a flame. The Kamado siblings split up to complete their tasks. As Tanjiro's blade was about to touch the enemy's opening thread, it suddenly broke right before his eyes. An arrow pulled him into a dizzying movement, and he was beaten up from all sides. Luckily, before he could fall freely, seemingly to be smashed to pieces, Tanjiro executed a technique to minimize the impact force. On the other side was the image of Nezuko happily playing ball with the not-so-vit pro demon. Yushiro joined in the fun with his invisibility technique, punching her a few times to vent his anger for daring to touch his Tamayo-sama. The arrow demon, hearing the familiar name, called out to his friend, asking if that wasn't the runaway Tamayo, a traitor who deserves no forgiveness. They immediately threw balls to attack Nezuko, who lost a leg and was kicked into the house. Her recovery speed was too slow, so Tamayo had to give her an injection. Nezuko seemed to see an image of her mother gently caring for her. Tanjiro kept thinking of a way to stop the arrows. Aimed at him, they wouldn't stop until they had inflicted enough injuries on him. Then he found a solution. Tanjiro tried to use his 6th form to pull all those arrows into a vortex, then raised his sword to create a 3rd form to approach the demon. The weight of the arrows pressed down on his sword, but in the end, Tanjiro cut off the enemy's head. It seemed the result was clear, but unexpectedly, before the demon disintegrated, it had already attached arrows all over his body. Tanjiro realized that if he didn't continuously execute the impact-reducing technique, his body would soon be crushed to pieces. The arrows relentlessly pursued him. Tanjiro was soon exhausted, but he had to continue his attack. the demon completely disintegrated, and the arrows disappeared with it. Tanjiro fell to the ground, his whole body aching. He was so tired that he couldn't even hold his sword, so he held it with his teeth. He had to continue fighting because there was another demon. Yushiro dodged the attack, but it was clear that with a female demon's speed and savage fighting strength, he could hardly get close. Nezuko appeared, kicking the ball away to save him. Yushiro grumbled, "Don't be careless, you can't die like this." And he was rewarded with a pat on the head from Nezuko. Next, she joined a friendly soccer match with the enemy. Although Nezuko was very strong, the opponent was also very formidable. Tamayo decided she had to do something. She asked the female demon if she knew the true nature of Kibutsuji Musen. He's just a coward because he's always afraid of something. The fact that demons can't travel in packs and can even eat each other is because Musen is afraid they will rebel against him. While she couldn't accept that and tried to prove Lord Kibutsuji was invincible, Tamayo used her blood demon art White Sun's bewitching scent, which could impair a target's brain, making them unable to lie or keep secrets. She frantically cried and begged Musen for forgiveness. Then 3 arms grew out of her body, and an arm from her mouth crushed her head, killing her instantly. Tanjiro and Yushiro witnessed the horrifying scene. Speechless, Tamayo said that the remaining demon cells of Musen had torn her body apart, while Yushiro ran to cover Tanjiro's nose and mouth with a cloth. Don't inhale Tamayo-sama's blood demon art. It's very harmful to the human body. Tamayo continued. She was not one of the 12. Kazuki, if she were, her eyeballs would be engraved with a number, but she didn't have one. Anyway, the blood sample obtained will be useful in preparing a cure. Tamayo treated Nezuko because she had also been affected by her blood demon art. Yushiro immediately chased after them. Tanjiro, stay there. Hearing her dying words, she wanted her ball, like a child wanting to play. Tanjiro understood that this painful death was the price she had to pay for taking so many other lives. But the disgust at how Musen treated his followers still made him nauseous. Tanjiro went down to the basement and received a hug from Nezuko. She also ran to hug Tamayo and pat Yushiro's head. Tamayo wondered. The suggestion she had planted in Nezuko's head made her see humans as family. But she and Yushiro were demons. Perhaps Nezuko had always seen them as humans and wanted to protect them. Tamayo shed tears. Yushiro suddenly remembered his past, when illness ravaged his body and his desire to live urged him to agree to become a demon. By Tamayo's side, although his life afterward was very painful, and he could never walk under the sun again, he had decided he would never regret it. Tamayo said they were about to move to another residence, and asked if Tanjiro could entrust Nezuko to them. Staying with them will be safer for her. Tanjiro understood their good intentions, but Nezuko grabbed her brother's hand. Tanjiro understood. He thanked Tamayo-san for her kindness and decided that he and his sister would go together. Family ties would never be broken again. Before saying goodbye and leaving, Yushiro said that Nezuko was indeed a beauty. That recognition made Tanjiro smile brightly. The next journey was southeast. He helplessly begged the crow to be less noisy, but someone's cry was even more terrible, torturing his ears. A blonde-haired teenager was kneeling and clinging to a girl in the middle of the road, constantly begging her to marry him. What on earth is going on? The blonde boy's sparrow perched on Tanjiro's hand, chirping incomprehensibly as if begging him to stop its crazy master. Tanjiro acted chivalrously, pulling the person's shirt and scolding him. The boy realized Tanjiro was from the same selection, but Tanjiro didn't dare to acknowledge him. The blonde-haired person kept blaming Tanjiro for interrupting his great affair. That girl is my lover, we're about to get married. Before he could finish, he was slapped several times by the girl, to the point that Tanjiro had to intervene. She said she had just happened to see him lying on the road and came to check on him. But then he started clinging to her, scaring her to death. I'm already engaged, goodbye forever. Seeing the crying, sorrowful, and reproachful face of the blonde boy, Tanjiro showed a contemptuous expression. Our protagonist had to lecture this person, named Agatsuma Zenitsu, on how to be a proper human being. After the blonde teenager calmed down, he said he was hungry. Tanjiro gave him his own rice ball. Zenitsu understood and split it with him. Tanjiro understood Zenitsu's fear of demons, but hoped he wouldn't cause trouble for the sparrow. While Zenitsu was still stunned that his new acquaintance understood sparrow language, and heard her expose all his bad habits, Tanjiro's crow urged them both to set off for their destination as soon as possible. And Zenitsu had another mental breakdown upon hearing a crow speak human language. Tanjiro followed the strong smell of a demon ahead while Zenitsu tagged along, saying he was useless and couldn't do anything. They both approached a house deep in the forest. Tanjiro smelled a strange scent in the air. Zenitsu asked if he didn't hear anything. Tanjiro saw 2 children not far away, looking at them in fear. He gently asked them, and it turned out a monster had taken their older brother and dragged him into that house. The 2 children had followed their brother's blood trail all the way here. Tanjiro soothed them, saying he would definitely destroy that evil creature and save their brother. Zenitsu said the strange, creepy sound was a drum. A human body suddenly fell from the house. Tanjiro ran over and listened to the person's last broken sounds. So much effort to escape, yet still ended in death. If only I had arrived a little earlier, maybe I could have saved him. He embraced the person as a way of sending him off to his final rest. Tanjiro asked if this was the 2 children's brother. They said no. Their brother wore a yellow-brown kimono. Tanjiro understood that he needed to enter that house. He left the box with the two children in the shade in case of an emergency. Nezuko could save them. Then Tanjiro and Zenitsu entered the house. Zenitsu cried and whined, "Will you protect me?" Tanjiro honestly replied, "My ribs and leg were broken in the last battle, and haven't fully recovered yet." Before he could finish, Zenitsu was already in a panic, on the verge of going crazy, and threw a tantrum. "I'm going to die. Die, die." Tanjiro was helpless before he could finish his comforting words. His friend heard a strange noise. It turned out the two children from earlier had entered the house because the box was making a strange, scary sound. Tanjiro told the two children, "Anyway, you shouldn't have left the box alone, because what's inside is more important than my own life." A sound echoed, seeming as if the ceiling was about to collapse. Zenitsu, startled again, accidentally pushed Tanjiro and the little girl into the adjacent room. In a flash, Tanjiro saw the scenery change. They were in a different room. The sound of the drum continued, transporting them to different spaces. Tanjiro promised to protect the little girl, and Zenitsu was determined to protect her brother. Suddenly, the drum demon appeared. Tanjiro recognized him as the master of this house, the one who had devoured many lives with a terribly strong scent. Zenitsu screamed continuously, separated from Tanjiro, and wondered how he would survive. He then thought of a way to sneak out. The little boy helplessly scolded Zenitsu with words as sharp as a knife. Zenitsu knew it hurt. He pulled the boy out the door. "I can't handle such a big deal. Let's call an adult for help." But when the door opened, it was another room. The space had been altered. The main door had disappeared. Zenitsu hastily opened the doors and suddenly opened one to a room where a person wearing a pig mask was. Turning around and looking at him, he screamed "Monster," scared to death, but luckily, that person didn't harm them and left immediately. Meanwhile, Tanjiro told Teriko to hide behind the shelves while he prepared to fight. Tanjiro interrupted the drum demon's monologue. As his blade was about to cut its head, a drum sound echoed, rotating the room 90 degrees. He realized there was another strange scent approaching, but it wasn't from a demon. The person wearing the boar mask rushed forward with the catchphrase "Beast Assault" and a hair-raising laugh, breaking down the room's door. Did that person carry twin swords, a member of the Demon Slayer Corps? That self-proclaimed boar rushed forward, wanting to behead the demon immediately, but the room kept moving with the drum sound. Again and again, the boar head stepped on the little girl. Seeing this, Tanjiro rushed to throw him away, protecting Teriko and only scolding him. That boar arrogantly said that it was the first time a human had thrown him like that, and he rushed forward, almost giving him a taste of pain. A fight between swordsmen was about to break out when the demon got annoyed and made a drum sound. That seemed to tear the floor apart. Tanjiro gradually understood the rules of the drum sounds and was transported to another room. He and Teriko found a room where a person in a kimono was sitting, tapping a rhythm. On this side, Zenitsu was terrified to the max level. Just a simple inquiry from the boy made him 10 times more scared. Zenitsu explained that they couldn't talk much because a demon might appear. Then the boy was utterly terrified when he saw a disgusting creature crawling behind Zenitsu. A demon with a long, lolling tongue, as if starving. It clung to them, despite Zenitsu's cries. Their flesh is tough and not nutritious. The demon extended its tongue, about to catch them. Luckily, Zenitsu quickly pulled them both into a room. He was too scared to run anymore, telling the boy to go on without him. But the boy couldn't. Zenitsu fought a fierce internal battle. He knew he had to protect the boy, but he was weak. How the hell can I do this? The demon crawled to the front of the room, saying it would suck out his brain, which shocked him into fainting on the spot. It was a good thing the boy pulled him into the room to avoid the demon for a bit. The demon extended its tongue, about to taste today's meal, but forgot that the sleeping blonde was a king of hiding skills. Zenitsu stood up while his eyes were still closed, performing Breath of Thunder, first form. With just a basic slash, the demon's head fell before it could even gasp. When he woke up, he was horrified to see the head fall right at his feet. He then cried and screamed, thanking the boy Shoichi for saving his life. While the boy was helpless, on this side, the beast boar advanced, muttering about having to destroy that demon, then suddenly dodged a demon's hand that appeared in the doorway. The fat demon demanded he be a hearty meal, but didn't know he had run into the excellent self-taught model of the Demon Slayer Corps. The boar had performed Breath of the Beast, his twin swords instantly cutting off its 2 arms, and then its head. He then continued to run to find the formidable drum demon from before. As for the master of the house, he was reminding himself to find more people with Mariki to eat and regain his former status as Lower Moon 6, which had been taken from him. He needed the magical blood of Lord Muzan to become stronger. Meanwhile, Teriko had reunited with her brother Kiyoshi. Tanjiro introduced himself and his status as a swordsman here to destroy demons. He praised the child for trying so hard and took out the divine medicine his master had given him, a bomb to reduce swelling and pain, and gave first aid to the boy. He kept talking to ease the children's anxiety. Tanjiro wanted to know everything that had happened. Kiyoshi honestly recounted being captured, almost eaten, when 2 other demons came and argued over who got to eat the boy. The demon with the drum on its body was defeated by the other 2, and this drum fell. So he picked it up and secretly beat it, which is why the room changed and he was able to survive until now. Tanjiro listened to the story, remembering the demon who had spoken of Maraki. The crow following Tanjiro then spoke up to explain. Mareki are people with rare blood. To a demon, one person with Mareki is equal to 50 to 100 ordinary people. Eating such a person makes a demon stronger quickly. Tanjiro smelled the scent of that demon. It was coming. He said he would go out, and the two children should stay inside. As soon as I leave, Terko, beat the drum. If you hear any sound, beat the drum to escape. He promised to come and get them soon, hoping they would be strong enough to overcome this fear. Tanjiro rushed out to face the enemy, relieved to hear the sound of the drum behind him. Ready to fight, the drum demon appeared, continuously beating the drum to change the room's angle. But Tanjiro had already anticipated its every move, only not expecting its clawing attack to be so formidable. Tanjiro remembered the wound that caused him intense pain. Because he was the eldest son, he had always tried to overcome it. Even just speaking loudly or pulling Zenitsu away from the girl on the street was enough to make him ache. But at this moment, he had to be sure to behead that demon to protect those two children, to escape safely. And for his sister Nezuko, who was waiting. His poor physical condition always made Tanjiro think negatively. He called out to his teacher Yorokodaki and remembered what he had taught. Water is something that has no definite shape, and the breath of water has 10 forms. No matter what happens, you can adapt. Even if his bones were broken and his heart felt like it was about to break, Tanjiro had to keep encouraging himself to complete the mission. Come on, Tanjiro. He tightened his grip on his sword. I've always done well before. Believe in myself. I can do it, now and in the future, even if I'm knocked down. I will never lose heart. Zenitsu and his younger brother Shoichi continuously ran, looking for a way out of the house, and they both realized they had been going in circles. Then suddenly the room they were in turned, and a series of doors opened, leading them to the light outside. Meanwhile, Tanjiro was struggling to find a way to destroy the drum demon. He was attacked so relentlessly that he didn't have time to use his head. The demon felt this was troublesome. I have to eat Mareki soon. Suddenly, Tanjiro asked the enemy's name. It replied, Kyoge. He said he would definitely not give Kyoshi to him, would definitely not fall, and would not give up. The man repeatedly referred to himself as this one. This one will eat Mareki and restore his status as one of the 12 Kazuki. He beat the drum frantically, and the whole room was torn apart. Paper containers fell and scattered on the floor. Still not giving up, that question lingered in his mind, a past of being despised, a passion for writing, and the heartfelt words he wrote were considered trash. He remembered how miserable that had made him. That person told him he should just howl in his room and play the drum. That hatred had consumed his humanity, making it impossible for him to turn back. Returning to reality, he beat the drum relentlessly, determined to take Tanjiro's life. As he touched the ground and tried to avoid the scattered papers on the floor, he seemed to understand something. The demon was surprised to see his reaction. Tanjiro realized that avoiding the papers helped him avoid further injury and maintain his breathing. He realized and dodged all of the man's attacks. Breath of water, 9th form, easily minimizing his landing and finishing in a direct attack. Tanjiro saw the thread of opening before he struck, and said a sentence that surprised the man. Kyoge, your blood demon art is amazing. And everything ended there. Taking a deep breath made Tanjiro's ribs ache. The eldest son's mantra seemed to calm the young boy. Kyoge asked Tanjiro again, is my blood demon art amazing? Tanjiro acknowledged it, but his eyes were serious. As he said, the fact that you killed people is unforgivable. He didn't forget to take a blood sample and give it to Tamayo-san's demon cat, hoping it would still be delivered to the lady, and that good things would happen in the near future. Before completely disappearing, the drum demon learned that there was someone in the world who cherished the pages he wrote, even when he was attacked and almost lost his life. The young boy never stepped on his feelings. This was enough to make that demon satisfied and accept his punishment. Tanjiro ran to find Kyoshi and Teruko everywhere. When he opened the door, he was immediately hit on the head with pots, pans, and a book. He asked why they attacked him, and the children explained that because the drum suddenly disappeared. They were scared. Tanjiro gently sighed in relief. It's okay now. He carried the injured boy out, realizing that Zenitsu and Shoichi's scent had disappeared. They must have gone out. But suddenly, Tanjiro smelled blood, heading towards the light. The three of them quickly escaped from the house. At this time, Tanjiro saw the person wearing the pig mask kicking Zenitsu black and blue, while he was hugging the box containing his sister. Because Tanjiro said this box was more important than his life, Zenitsu had to protect it at all costs. Zenitsu's hearing was very sensitive. He could even hear the hidden thoughts in people's hearts. When Shoichi called him to wake up and thank God, the sound of the beast boar's assault came again. Hey! He broke down the main door and escaped. Zenitsu realized he was the 5th survivor of the final selection, the one who went up the mountain first and also came down first, an impetuous person who didn't even listen to the instructions of the organizers. The boar had discovered the box containing a demon nearby. He rushed forward to behead it immediately but was stopped by Zenitsu. He introduced himself. The boar wondered, a demon slayer protecting that thing. How annoying. I'll smash you both. Zenitsu knew from the beginning that there was a demon inside because the sound of a demon was different from a human's. But Tanjiro emitted a sound so warm that it made him want to cry. That made Zenitsu believe there must be a reason why his friend carried a demon, even considering it more precious than his own life. I will ask Tanjiro directly, so Boarhead, please step back. The annoying one was kicked by the boar god, but Zenitsu refused to give up. They fought for a while, which is why his face was bruised now. Tanjiro witnessed this, looking at Zenitsu hugging his sister's box, and remember the scene of Nezuko using her body to shield her youngest sibling, her blood staining the white, snow red. He was enraged and rushed forward, delivering a punch that broke the boar head's 3 ribs and sent him flying 8 meters. Zenitsu once again witnessed Tanjiro's not-so-ordinary side and was terrified. Last time, he broke that person's hand at the selection gate. Tanjiro said that as a swordsman, the ultimate taboo was to point a sword at each other. Zenitsu didn't draw his sword not because he was afraid of you, but because he was following orders. The boar head laughed heartily. I see, so a one-on-one fight then? Tanjiro was almost helpless, quickly explaining that it wasn't like that. That people in the organization were not allowed to fight each other. Before he could finish, the boar head attacked relentlessly. Zenitsu helplessly watched them. One who had just broken 3 ribs still had the strength to charge like a mad bull. And Tanjiro had also broken the rules, punching someone and breaking 3 of his ribs. The one-on-one fight opened the door for a close friendship later. Fighting makes you closer, so please enjoy the show. Tanjiro noticed that the opponent's low attacks were like fighting a 4-legged beast. His joints were too flexible, definitely not those of a normal person. He was smug, complimenting himself for being so good, which made Zenitsu feel helpless. However, our protagonist was also no ordinary person. His keen sense of smell, able to discern emotions and traces, was already VIP pro level. But his old-fashioned physical technique, used repeatedly and always victorious. The iron headbutt was even more formidable. The truth is, Tanjiro used his headbutt to end the match quickly and cleanly. The opponent, on the other hand, had a bleeding forehead and was foaming at the mouth, passing out completely. Before that person fell into a deep sleep, or rather, a nap, the boar mask fell off, revealing a beautiful face. It was quite a sight to see a muscular man with a six-pack and a deep, booming voice like an echo from the underworld, having a face so lovely that it would make a maiden jealous. Zenitsu was not judging at all, not one bit. Got a problem with that? I'll punch you now, Tanjiro said loudly. They didn't comment on his face at all. A small, fair face is a good thing, right? Yes, this is an example of how being too honest can sometimes be frustrating. Ladies and gentlemen. He introduced himself as Hashibira Inosuke, not knowing how to read or write his name. Before he could finish the second part of his sentence, he suddenly stopped and foamed at the mouth. Tanjiro smelled him. He's probably not dead. Just a concussion. When Inosuke woke up, he found himself pillowing his head on and covered by Tanjiro's and Zenitsu's harass. He immediately jumped up and demanded a match, seeing everyone making graves for the unfortunate victims. He stopped and wondered, what the hell are you doing? I don't understand what's the point of burying that creature's corpse. Screw it. I'm not helping. Let's fight. Zenitsu thought this guy was crazy. While Tanjiro worried that his head injury might be too severe, Tanjiro advised, you should rest, don't push yourself, which annoyed Inosuke, who jumped up and down. Am I weak? I'll dig more graves than all of you. The purifying light shone down, and everyone clasped their hands in prayer for the suffering souls to rest in peace. Inosuke, on the other hand, was headbutting a tree to test the hardness of his head. Tanjiro's crow messenger ordered everyone to descend the mountain. Of course, Inosuke followed because he still wanted a long-term match. Zenitsu refused to let go of Shoichi because he wanted the boy to protect him. He cried so much that Tanjiro had to knock him out by hitting the back of his neck, so that the children could return home. The crow dropped a Wisteria flower charm into Kiyoshi's hand. The child, having rare blood, should carry this charm for protection. The children thanked the brothers and said their goodbyes. For the rest of the journey, Tanjiro carried the box in front and Zenitsu on his back, introducing himself to the strange Inosuke. However, Kamado Tanjiro became Kamaboko Ganpachiro. A few loud words from him woke Zenitsu up, who then screamed. At them, they arrived at a rest stop, a guest house with a Wisteria flower crest. Here, they were allowed to rest and heal until they recovered. An old woman opened the door to welcome the 3 swordsmen, but Zenitsu thought she was a ghost, and Inosuke bluntly said she looked weak. Being with these 2 friends gave Tanjiro a slight trauma. They were invited into a room where their clothes had been prepared, another room full of food. Inosuke smiled a gentle and warm smile, like a breeze on a day before Tet in Hanoi at 14 degrees Celsius. Perhaps he was planning to compete in an eating contest. But Tanjiro simply understood that Inosuke was hungry and gave him his own portion of food. So you've completely forgotten about the box and the fight earlier? Are you kidding me, Zenitsu? The 3 then entered the bedroom. Inosuke claimed a mattress first and was annoyed that Tanjiro was so relaxed and had no intention of competing. So he threw a pillow straight at Zenitsu's face, truly taking it out on the wrong person. The doctor was invited to check their health. After a while, he gave a rather serious diagnosis. All 3 had broken bones, 2, 3, and 4, respectively. Inosuke pushed his bangs aside. What's this lump for? Tanjiro apologized. And Zenitsu also wanted to hear an apology from Inosuke, but of course, no way. After arguing back and forth for a while, the old woman's shadow appeared again. May I ask what you gentlemen need? According to the crow, This Wisteria house belonged to a family that had once been saved by a swordsman. Therefore, if they met a demon slayer, they would help unconditionally. Tanjiro suddenly asked why Inosuke joined the demon slayer corps, and he answered honestly. I fought with a swordsman on the mountain and took his sword. I heard there was a selection test on Wisteria Mountain, so I went. Tanjiro said that they were similar because they both grew up on a mountain, but Inosuke retorted, don't lump us together. I don't have parents or siblings. I just enjoy fighting with other creatures. Zenitsu, on the other hand, couldn't sleep and asked about the story of his friend carrying a demon. Tanjiro said that Zenitsu was a good person, still protecting the box even after knowing the truth. This made the blonde-haired boy smug. Tanjiro's keen sense of smell told him that Zenitsu was not only kind but also very strong. But Zenitsu coldly refused. That's not a funny joke. The box suddenly made a sound, startling Zenitsu. Meanwhile, Inosuke wondered why Tanjiro was being so nice to him, while Zenitsu was running around looking for a place to hide. But when Nezuko crawled out and slowly stood up, her heart stopping, beauty made him fall in love at first sight. He blamed Tanjiro for bringing such a cute girl with him and drew his sword. Because his friend had disrespected the Demon Slayer Corps, he didn't give the young Kamado a chance to introduce his sister. Meanwhile, Inosuke was snoring loudly after understanding the situation. Zenitsu followed Nezuko-chan and happily made up with Tanjiro. The three played a game of running in circles. While Inosuke went outside for some fresh air, the old woman came to give him a kimono and offered to wash his dirty clothes. From then on, the sun shone in Inosuke's heart, the sun of truth shining through his heart. He opened the door with great gusto and joined his friends in the fun. When the doctor concluded that they had recovered, the crow messenger arrived, calling all three to move to the northeast, where Mount Natagumo was located. It was time for Tanjiro and his friends to say goodbye, and the old woman struck a flint for good luck. But Inosuke didn't understand this ritual and almost assaulted a child and an old person. The Kamaboko squad ran along the path towards their destination. It was only then that they realized Inosuke really didn't understand even the simplest concepts of the world. Zenitsu heard that sincere sound, while Tanjiro patiently explained everything step by step. When he ran out of words, he sped up to avoid answering. The three arrived at the foot of the mountain as the sun was setting. Zenitsu once again refused to go any further. Tanjiro smelled a strange scent and immediately ran off. Inosuke followed right away, and so the blonde-haired boy had to chase after them, lest he be left alone to witness his comrades cry for help, and then see that person being dragged away by a spider thread. Tanjiro decided to enter the mountain. Of course, Inosuke didn't want to be outdone, so he took the lead. Only Zenitsu was left, still terrified. The demons hidden deep in the mountain. What terrifying things were waiting for them? Inosuke discovered that this place was full of spiderwebs. Tanjiro said thank you because when his friend said he would go with him, it made Tanjiro feel more secure, although the smell of disaster emanating from the mountain made him shiver. Inosuke seemed to see the light of the party shining through his heart again. Tanjiro saw a shadow in front of them and whispered for them to go. Tanjiro introduced himself as a Mizunoto-ranked swordsman who had come to help, but was complained to by the person. Why isn't it a Hashira? So Inosuke punched him in the face. They've come to help and you're still complaining. According to Murata, there were 10 of them sent here. Halfway through, everyone started acting strange, drawing their swords and attacking each other. Only he managed to escape. Meanwhile, the exhausted crow flew back to report urgently to its master. He immediately ordered the two Hashira, Ju and Shinobu, to go to the rescue. Zenitsu was still sitting and thinking about random things until his sparrow scolded him. Acting cowardly is useless. Go support your comrades. He was grabbed by the sparrow and cried out, why aren't you cute at all like Nezuko? Then his head lit up, remembering that Nezuko was in the box on Tanjiro's back. Unacceptable. How could you let a good girl into a dangerous farce like this? He flew into the mountain to find Nezuko-chan. On this side, the out-of-control swordsman attacked Tanjiro and his two friends. Tanjiro realized they were being manipulated. He and Inosuke immediately cut the threads. They had to find the one pulling the strings. Tanjiro wanted to use his keen sense of smell to pinpoint its location, but the smell was too overwhelming. Every time he tried, Tanjiro hoped that if Inosuke had any ability to locate demons, he would help him. Suddenly, a demon appeared in front of them on spider threads and under the moonlight. It said, don't interfere with my family's peaceful life. You will soon be killed by my mother. Inosuke jumped up to slash, but it was no use. It left while Tanjiro's group was still in chaos. Inosuke then performed his top-notch skill, Breath of the Beast, 7th form, spatial awareness. He found it. The demon was looking down from above. It absolutely would not let anyone destroy its family's happiness. The bond between the 5 members could not be broken. Zenitsu was out of breath from looking for Nezuko-chan. Murata said he would hold off the control people and advised the two to leave quickly to find and destroy the one behind this. Tanjiro thanked him and then dragged the angry Inosuke, who was being called a stinky boarhead, away. Inosuke's feeling was never wrong. The thick layer of spider webs proved that they were getting closer to the demon. They stopped when they saw a female comrade begging, don't come any closer. Call someone of a higher rank. If not, everyone will die. The mother spider was enjoying her fun of playing with her puppets when she suddenly froze, terrified when the demon child found her. If you don't hurry up, I'll tell father. She was scared by Rui's warning and frantically manipulated the spider threads. The comrades begged them to kill them, to free them from their physical pain. If you want it, you got it. Inosuke wasn't scared. If they delayed, everyone would die. But Tanjiro said he would find a way. Tanjiro ran in circles, making the puppets follow. The puppets are getting trolled. He threw them onto the trees, so he didn't have to kill anyone. Nice play. Inosuke also wanted to do it. Meanwhile, Zenitsu was crying and calling out his two friends' names. I'm sorry, and went to find Nezuko-chan with his sparrow. On Tanjiro's side, the mother spider demon didn't need the useless puppets anymore. She used her threads to cut their faces and break the necks of the poor soldiers. All of Tanjiro's and Inosuke's efforts seemed to go down the drain. The young Kamado knelt down as a farewell to the unfortunate victims. And then the two continued to find and destroy the demons leading this mountain. Inosuke passed through the trees and discovered a headless demon. What the hell is this? Tanjiro advised his friend to calm down and try cutting diagonally from the right side of the neck to the left hip. Before he could finish his sentence, Inosuke had already rushed forward. Tanjiro saved Inosuke's life. The boar head once again saw the bright summer sun in the gloomy forest. Tanjiro told Inosuke to jump on his shoulders, and the two worked together to fight, cutting off its two arms and then its two legs. Inosuke witnessed Tanjiro performing the breath of water, and realized that he was always quietly observing and directing everything according to plan, just like an underground river flowing beneath a river. The boar head ended the battle with a final slash, decapitating it. The demon gradually disintegrated, while Inosuke was grumbling, if you can do it, I can do it too. He rushed forward and threw Tanjiro into the air. He understood Inosuke's intention. Under the full moon, Tanjiro flew down and decapitated the mother spider demon. Is everything about to end? But this would be a release. She raised her two hands as if to receive a blessing from heaven. The serene sense of accepting death from her moved Tanjiro. Is this life so painful? Tanjiro immediately switched to the gentlest technique to finish her off. Breath of water. Fifth form. Blessed rain after the drought, just as its name suggests. Rain after a drought. It was like a cool stream of water flashing across her neck, saving her suffering soul. A slash of mercy for those who know how to repent, causing no pain at all. In an instant, the demon seemed to feel the gentle warmth of this world, remembering the past of being abused by her spider demon husband and her indifferent children. Witnessing it, perhaps death was better. Looking up and seeing the gentle eyes of the red-haired youth, she remembered that when she was human, someone had also looked at her with such gentle eyes. She said that the 12 Kazuki were here. Before disappearing, she only left Tanjiro with one sentence, be careful. If he could get a blood sample from someone closely related to Muzan, the chance for Nezuko to return to being human would come a little sooner. Tanjiro thought so, and then returned to meet up with Inosuke. He looked at his friend, covered in injuries, the swordsman he couldn't save, and the smell of suffering from the demon just now. What on earth had happened on this mountain? Tanjiro bandaged Inosuke's wounds and suddenly remembered that demons don't live in packs. Why was there a demon family here? As for Zenitsu, he was complaining about the path he had entered. Every creature made him scared to death. Grandpa, please free me from this nightmare. I'll train for as long as you want. After running for a while, Zenitsu got lost in the spider demon brother's territory. Seeing the corpses of his comrades hanging in the air with various spider heads and human bodies, Zenitsu was so disgusted that he had to run. But the spider demon brother said he was about to die. Look at yourself. It was only then that Zenitsu noticed that he had been poisoned in his hand without knowing when. The spider demon brother laughed maniacally, saying that in less than half an hour, he would also be turned into a spider like it. First, dizziness, then pain as if his internal organs were being crushed. Zenitsu cried in fear. He didn't want to die like this. Then he climbed a tree to avoid the spiders. He complained to the heavens, I don't even have a lover, and my friends probably hate me now. He remembered the days before when he also climbed a tree to avoid his grandpa. Not wanting to train, he was the one who saved him from a pile of dead and took him in, giving him a place to go back to, a loving caregiver. Although he didn't want to live in a place where he had to train like crazy to become a swordsman, he had secretly practiced many times, and he complained to the heavens why he wasn't improving even though he had tried so hard. Unexpectedly, a bolt of lightning struck, hitting the tree and turning his hair yellow. The blue sky has answered your question. Returning to reality, in pain from dying, he looked at the spiders about to crawl towards him and fainted. Then he fell, making the spider demon brother extremely confused. But it didn't know how strong Zenitsu was when he was asleep. He focused his power. Breath of thunder, first form. Zenitsu remembered his grandpa's teaching. If you can only do one thing, you must master it. Hone it to the peak. It's okay to cry. It's okay to run away. But you must not give up. He remembered his senior brother, who despised him, saying that it was a waste of time for the teacher to train a useless person like him. Zenitsu wanted to become someone who could protect someone, bring peace to someone. The spider demon brother discovered that he had only been using one stance all this time, and laughed to himself at his guess. That swordsman can only use that one move. However, the scary thing is not that he can't learn all the techniques, but that he has practiced one technique hundreds of times. Zenitsu's eyes lit up. Breath of thunder, first form, thunderclap, and flash. The air around him seemed to tremble. He jumped up, making the small spiders clinging to him fly off for a meter. His whole body was charged with electricity. illuminating the demon's territory. Zenitsu moved with lightning speed, confusing the demon. Like a lightning bolt teleporting, creating a zigzag pattern in the air, fast and decisive. He flew up and decapitated the demon under the full moon like the 15th of August. Zenitsu had excellently surpassed himself and completed his mission as a swordsman well. He himself fell onto the floating house, his whole body aching from the deadly poison to the point where he couldn't move anymore. Zenitsu looked up at the moon and counted the last moments of his life. The sparrow Chintaro came to comfort him. You did very well. He wanted to send his apologies to his grandpa very much and also thought of Tanjiro. The image of his grandpa appeared in his mind, reminding him not to give up. Zenitsu was determined to use his breath to stop the poison from spreading throughout his body. At that time, Tanjiro and Inosuke, who were at the stream, suddenly heard the sound of the shock just now, but they didn't smell anything like the charged cloud due to the heavy smell of filth here. They didn't know what had happened over there. Tanjiro advised Inosuke to go down the mountain because he was seriously injured. But the boar god was extravagant. No way. There's no way I'm injured. I'm as strong as an elephant. The two suddenly saw the sister spider demon on the other side of the stream and were about to chase her, but she suddenly shouted father. And the huge father spider demon rushed down to attack them. With a hideous face and a terrifyingly huge body, he said he would not spare anyone who harmed his family. Ju and Shinobu arrived at the mountain, witnessing the scattered bodies of soldiers on the ground. Assessing the situation, the number of survivors was almost zero. They couldn't delay any longer. Shinobu initiated a conversation with the distant, cold Ju. It was rare for two Hashira to be assigned to the same mission, so talking was considered a way to bond. The two split up to complete their tasks. Tanjiro and Inosuke were still trying to attack the father spider demon, but their swords couldn't penetrate his skin. Inosuke, having lost a lot of blood, was disoriented by the demon's relentless pursuit. Tanjiro went ashore and chopped down a large tree, hoping to hold it back. This dire situation forced him to use his strongest technique, Breath of Water. 10th form, Constant Flux. A powerful, large stream of water followed his sword strike. But unexpectedly, the demon used the tree trunk to swat him into the sky. Tanjiro flew far away, trying to tell Inosuke to hold on until he returned, to absolutely not die. Be careful, because he's one of the 12 Kazuki. Meanwhile, Zenitsu was about to fall into a coma. They say that when you're about to die, you see illusions. That's why he saw a gentle, butterfly-like woman under the moonlight, gently flying towards him. Tanjiro, on the other hand, flew 100 meters away, trying to use his techniques to land more softly. Fortunately, he was still safe. He heard the panic sounds of the sister spider demon nearby and was surprised. Weren't they allies? Why is that child being violent towards the sister spider? Rui said. Don't equate them with something as fragile as an ally. Their family bond is deep and strong. This is their sister's private matter. Tanjiro retorted. Allies or family, both are precious. Is it because there's no blood relation that it's so fragile? Ridiculous? People who are closely bonded exude a scent of trust, while between you, there's only fear and hatred. It's all fake. Suddenly, a swordsman approached. He smugly declared he would destroy the demon and rise to a higher rank. Getting a lot of prize money, Tanjiro warned him not to get close. But he couldn't stop the painful CAC. The threads tore the man's body to pieces. While Tanjiro was still horrified by the massacre before him, Rui turned back. He radiated a killing intent that made Tanjiro shiver. This pressure made the space feel heavy. As if a tangible object was being compressed, Rui wanted him to repeat what he had said. Tanjiro, unafraid, repeated it once more. Your bond is fake. Inosuke knew he couldn't defeat the father demon in the usual way. He hid, knowing it was pathetic, but safety first, right? He was about to run away and wait for Tanjiro to return. But the pride of the Lord of the Forest wouldn't allow it. He rushed out to fight it again. Tanjiro's fight with Rui was no less difficult. Rui said he would cut Tanjiro into 100 pieces and tear his body apart. If Tanjiro retracted his words, he would be granted a quick end. No way. Tanjiro refused because he hadn't said anything wrong. The one with the warped and arrogant perception, thinking he was right, was Rui. On Inosuke's side, he chased the fleeing demon. Why are you climbing a tree and trembling like a leaf, old man? Inosuke thought it was afraid of him and acted very proud, but unexpectedly, it molted. How could he defeat it with this upgraded body? Now our bored god was helpless, dropping his sword and waiting for death. He suddenly remembered Tanjiro's words and the kindness of the old woman at the Wisteria house. As if regaining his fighting spirit and continuing to try, Inosuke swung his swords for a while. Breath of the Beast, 3rd form. But unexpectedly, both swords broke in half. He was thrown against a large tree and exhausted. The demon squeezed his head in midair. Inosuke tried to stab his dual swords into its neck but couldn't lift his hand to slash again. In his final moments, he saw a fleeting glimpse of a woman. She said, I'm sorry, my son. There was Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and the old woman. People he had met not long ago who had shown him what it felt like to be cared for. Just as he thought his life was over, the water Hashira, Tomioka, arrived in time. He slashed off the demon's arm that was about to crush Inosuke's head, successfully pulling him back from the brink of death. The demon rushed forward while Ju performed Breath of Water. 4th form, Striking Tide. A wave surged like a rising tide, and with just a few basic sword moves, he defeated it. Inosuke witnessed that amazing sight, his heart filled with awe. It was the first time he had seen someone so strong. Meanwhile, Tanjiro gradually became aware of the scent as the filth in the forest slowly dissipated. He could now grasp the scent of the threads and advance without fear to engage the enemy. When Tanjiro grasped the thread of opening of the demon in front of him and his sword touched it, Rui's spider threads broke his sword in half. Tanjiro was stunned, receiving a cut across the bridge of his nose. Meanwhile, Inosuke was extremely excited and thrilled, wanting to have a one-on-one duel with the Water Hashira because Ju had defeated that demon. If you defeat him, by the transitive property, you will become the strongest. Ju tied Inosuke to a tree because he was being too loud, challenging a Hashira, and then left. It took Inosuke's brain a few seconds to load and realize how quickly he had been tied up. As for Zenitsu, the girl came and asked if he was still conscious and who the grandpa he was calling out to was. She said there was a theory that people, before they die, replay their memories like a movie in their heads because they are afraid to face reality and death. Only by living in old illusions and past experiences can they find some comfort. She said she couldn't understand because she had never been at the threshold of life and death. Then she gently injected Zenitsu with medicine and said, "You did very well. As for the comrades hanging nearby, it's okay now. She and the rescue team are here. They will be saved." Only then did Zenitsu feel at ease, closing his eyes to rest. Tanjiro's sword was broken down to the hilt. He didn't expect the threads of the child in front of him to be harder than the skin of the demon from before. He apologized to his master and the swordsmith for his inexperience. The threads continued to attack. Tanjiro regained consciousness and focused on the fight. Rui cast a spider web, determined to tear Tanjiro's body into 100 small pieces. Just as he thought he couldn't avoid it, blood splattered. But surprisingly, it was Nezuko's blood. She appeared, using her body to shield her brother. Tanjiro quickly moved her to a corner, apologizing for making her do this for him. Rui was angry seeing them. Even though his sister had turned into a demon, she was still with her brother and willing to sacrifice herself for him. That made him extremely agitated. Tanjiro tried to reattach his sister's almost severed arm, a bitter feeling welling up in his heart that he couldn't put into words. The sister spider demon saw Rui so excited about the Kamado siblings' bond, and, terrified, quickly said, "I'm your sister," but was slashed into several pieces by him. He angrily cursed, "Have you ever played your part? Just obey me and go kill the humans in the mountains." Only Rui was left, and he said he was very moved by the noble bond of the Kamado siblings. If Tanjiro handed over his sister to him, he would spare his life. "Not even if I die. My sister is not a thing. She has her own feelings and will. How could I let my own flesh and blood fall into the hands of a cold-blooded, crazy demon like you? I will definitely take your head first." In return, he was met with a sneer. Rui raised his hand to brush his hair, and one eye revealed the inscription Lower 5. So he was the real 12 Kazuki. "Now let's see how you're going to kill a 12 Kazuki." He challenged smugly. For him, everyone in the family had a role, and anyone who didn't play their part would be destroyed. He asked Tanjiro what his role was, which was to hand over his sister and disappear or die. The eldest Kamado brother faced psychological pressure. In a flash, Rui pulled Nezuko towards him with his threads. Tanjiro was furious and roared for him to release his sister. Nezuko resisted, scratching his face, and was then hung up by him. Tanjiro watched his sister bleeding from the threads, feeling immense pain. Rui said there was nothing to worry about, since Nezuko was a demon and would recover soon. He had to teach his sister a lesson about the rules of the house. In fact, if she wasn't obedient, he would just hang her there until the sunlight burned her to ashes. When you love and care for someone, you feel pain even if they just get a scratch. What's more, Nezuko was Tanjiro's beloved sister, the only family he had left in this world. Tanjiro couldn't bear to see his sister being tortured and rushed forward recklessly. Rui beat him up and threw him far away. Nezuko saw her brother injured and cried out, but was squeezed tighter by Rui's threads because she has already become my sister, yet she reacts so strongly to a stranger like Tanjiro. Nezuko was in pain and fell asleep. Tanjiro was determined to use the breath of water to rush at the enemy. In an instant, blood-red threads appeared. He knew they were no ordinary threads. Not easy to cut, but he had no way back. He had to fight to save his sister. That was his only choice. In this life-or-death moment, old memories flooded back into Tanjiro's mind. The ritual dance on cold winter days, when snow covered the ground, that his father used to perform. The words of his terminally ill father, entrusting him to inherit. The breath, the earrings, and the family's ritual. He still remembered them clearly in his heart. Tanjiro seemed to have found a path forward. He took a deep breath, maintained his breathing, and tried to repeat what he had once seen of the Hinokami. Kagure. The breath of water turned into a raging fire dragon, breaking through and advancing, burning the threads. You have to try your best while you still can. Don't stop. You have to move forward to protect Nezuko. The fire dragon glowed bright red, fierce in the dark forest. He saw it, the thread. He had to cut it immediately. Nezuko fell into a dream. She suddenly heard her mother's voice calling her to wake up because your brother is about to die. If you don't, he will die. Nezuko immediately opened her eyes and for the first time deployed her own blood demon art. Blood burst her blood, flowed along the threads, burning the cells of their master. At the same time, the red flame soothed and did not harm humans, supporting her brother's advance. Tanjiro took the remaining part of his sword and powerfully slashed off Rui's head, saying with conviction, "Forever, the bond between me and Nezuko, no one can sever it." Everything ended as the embers still glowed in the space, and Rui seemed to have been destroyed. Is everything over? Rui's head fell, and Nezuko escaped from the threads and fell to the ground. Tanjiro was dizzy from breathing too hard. His whole body ached, but he still had to force himself to continue fighting, to go back and support his comrade Inosuke, who was in danger. Wait, he didn't smell ashes like the previous times. This meant that Rui was still. Before he could think, Rui's body stood up. He said he had used his threads to cut off his own head before Tanjiro's blade touched his neck. That meant he wasn't dead. It was all just his naive illusion. Tanjiro was truly agitated. His limbs so weak he couldn't move, let alone hold a sword, and it still wasn't over. He kept crawling towards his sister. He had to get up. Get up! Rui was furious. Why did Nezuko's fire burn his body, causing him so much pain, while Tanjiro felt nothing? Disgust overwhelmed him, making him want to overturn the chessboard of negotiating about family bonds. He would definitely take both their lives. Just as Rui's web of threads was about to tear Tanjiro into 100 pieces, Ju appeared, telling him he had held on well, and to leave the rest to him. Tanjiro looked at that back in disbelief. The water Hashira, Ju, performed breath of water, 11th form, lol. Tanjiro realized this was a technique he had created himself because the water breath originally only had 10 forms. Ju brought the enemy into a vast space of water, then suddenly the raging, fierce waves of the sea disappeared, leaving only a calm, still expanse of water, seemingly unable to hold even the slightest sound, making the opponent fall into a trance and lose their guard. The level of a Hashira was so different. Ju took Rui's head immediately. Meanwhile, the sister spider demon ran in panic. She remembered being chased by a group of demon slayers and being saved by Rui, on the condition that she become a member of his family. Perhaps Rui is the only demon Musen pampers. Enough to let him play family games, she drank a cup of blood from Rui and then formed a family bond with him. One of the group said they were just a fake family and would sooner or later suffer a painful end. She wanted to run away with her, but she betrayed that friend, reporting this to Rui and letting the female demon be punished by being burned under the sun. She knew she had to play her part well and was lucky not to be like Mother, or those foolish enough to disobey. She glanced ahead and saw a demon slayer. She swung her hand to trap Murata in a cocoon, but unfortunately for her, Shinobu was already there. She sent a friendly greeting and then dodged the threads as smoothly as a butterfly, then gently kicked her down the slope. Finally, she pinned her down. Shinobu wanted to be friends with the demon, but it seemed the sister spider wasn't interested. She knew this female swordsman was no ordinary person, and begged for mercy. Shinobu smiled gently and asked her how many people she had killed. After listening to the spider demon's fake story, she mentioned the more than 14 cocoons, proof of the 14 lives Shinobu had seen when she arrived here that had been killed. Now they can't be friends anymore. Shinobu performed the breath of the insect, and hundreds of small butterflies fluttered by like a fleeting, poetic moment. The sweet butterflies landed on the demon's hand, carrying a stinging poison. But the sister didn't know anything and even scorned Shinobu for not being able to decapitate the demon, because her arm strength was too weak. Before she could attack again, she fell down dead. Shinobu danced with her sword, introducing herself as the insect Hashira, who used poison to take demons' lives. Perhaps a little different from the other members of the Demon Slayer Corps, but definitely not wrong. The ability to become a Hashira was definitely top-notch. She rescued Murata from the cocoon and told him not to worry because the demon without a head was already dead from hysteria poison. Shinobu thought about meeting the demon controlling her, but perhaps Tomioka-san had already gone a long step ahead of her. Meanwhile, Rui recalled memories, the reason why he wanted to play family games. When he was a human, he had a frail body, watching his friends play snowball fights with longing. One day, a stranger appeared at his door, saying he would help him get what he had always wished for. However, his parents were not happy, because when Rui got a healthy body, he could no longer be exposed to the sun and was forced to eat human flesh. Rui wondered why his father didn't fulfill his duty like the father he had heard of, who drowned to save his son. Why did his father hold a knife and intend to kill him? His mother just cried and didn't stand up to protect him, so he killed both of them. Rui believed that the bond between his family was not real, but when he heard his mother's apology for not being able to give him a healthy body, he realized he had been too naive not to understand that his parents would go to hell with him to atone for his murder. The real bond was severed by his own hands that night. He always longed to meet his parents again, so he played this fake game, but perhaps it was no longer possible. Tanjiro felt that the small body was filled with so much suffering that it could no longer contain it. He reached out and patted it, the warmth from his hand making it feel incredibly warm. Perhaps it would have to go alone now, unable to go to its parents' heaven. But unexpectedly, its parents appeared. They were willing to go to hell with it to pay for past sins. Chu stepped on a piece of its clothing, telling Tanjiro not to sympathize with man-eating demons. For hundreds of years, they have always been cold-blooded and cruel creatures. He replied firmly. To avenge the victims, he would of course decapitate the demon, but demons also have their own suffering. If they repent, he will not trample on them. Ju's face was emotionless. He didn't reply and looked at the girl with a bamboo muzzle in Tanjiro's hands. His eyes wide with surprise. It seemed he suddenly remembered two children from his memories. At the same time, fluttering butterflies in the space signaled the presence of the insect Hashira. Shinobu appeared and was about to attack Nezuko, but luckily Ju stopped her in time. She was surprised that her comrade was protecting a demon without giving a reason, and told Tanjiro to get away because that thing was dangerous. The boy immediately explained that this was his sister. Shinobu understood, and she concluded that she would kill the girl with the gentlest poison, so that she could pass away without pain. Ju told Tanjiro to run with his sister while he still could, while he stayed behind to stop Shinobu. She said that a Hashira protecting a demon was a violation of the organization's rules, and according to the rules, she could kill Ju immediately. Of course, Shinobu didn't do that. She said goodbye to Ju and then lightly flew through the ancient trees to chase after the Kamado siblings. Ju also chased after her to hold her back. Although Shinobu had no objection to his incomprehensible violation of the rules, she said that even if Ju stopped her, not to forget that there was still another person here. Ju flew up, determined not to let Shinobu kill the demon sister. On Tanjiro's side, he ran through the forest with his sister, his heart in a turmoil. Would he be expelled from the organization? Even if they were siblings, being with a demon was against the Demon Slayer Corps' rules. Just as he thought they could escape safely, a girl jumped down and attacked, kicking Tanjiro unconscious before he could tell his sister to run. She almost slashed Nezuko, but his sister immediately turned small. The two played a game of chase in the forest for a while. The girl wondered why a demon like Nezuko didn't attack her back but only focused on escaping. But she concluded, why bother thinking? According to the organization's orders, if you see a demon, you kill it. On Ju's side, he had Shinobu in a headlock. Even though she said she wanted to hear his explanation, Ju found it hard to speak. Ju said it was a story from 2 years ago, this rambling about the past. Shinobu really wasn't interested at all. A person's endurance has its limits. Shinobu was now annoyed and was about to pull out a knife from under her foot and attack Ju straight in the face. Fortunately, the crow's call came in time, ending the fight between the two Hashira. By order of the master, Tanjiro and Nezuko were to be brought back to the residence. Tanjiro, plaid Hari, scar on his forehead. Nezuko, demon girl with a bamboo muzzle. The rescue team found Tanjiro with a broken jaw. Another group rescued Inosuke who was hanging from a tree, while Zenitsu, who had been bandaged beforehand, had already woken up. He recognized the girl as the one who was with him in the selection test, and she wore a hair clip similar to the sister who had saved him earlier, who was directing the troops to clean up the battlefield and take the wounded soldiers to the Butterfly Mansion. Everyone was busy with their own tasks. It seemed that death was just a fleeting illusion at the bottom of their eyes. As dawn broke, casting warm rays of light on the tragic forest, the battle of the previous night had ended, and some people were gone forever. A new day came and they had survived to return. When Tanjiro woke up, he saw unfamiliar people in front of him, and they were the Hashira, the strongest of the Demon Slayer Corps. Before the trial began, while waiting for the master's decision, Shinobu wanted to listen to the young Kamado's story, but a loud voice interrupted, saying that protecting a demon was a violation of the Corps' rules, and they could handle it themselves. Just behead it with the demon. The one who spoke first was the flame Hashira, Rengoku Kyojuro, who had bright, golden hair and a determined gaze that burned like a flame. The sound Hashira, Uzui Tengen, with a head adorned with diamonds, continued, then let me behead it in a flashy way. The love Hashira, Kenroji Mitsuri, who gave love to the whole world, couldn't help but sigh. To have to behead such a cute child, it's heartbreaking. Nearby, the stone Hashira, Himajima Gyome, as large as a shadow, clasped his hands and shed tears, feeling that this child was truly pitiful. Just by beheading, there will be no more pain in this world. The mist Hashira, Tokido Muichiro, on the other hand, seemed not to care much, just looking up at the blue sky and wondering what color that cloud was. Tanjiro looked around for Nezuko, ignoring the comments of the crowd. And Zenitsu and Inosuke? Where is everyone? The serpent Hashira, a girl Obanai, was in a tree with an annoyed expression, speaking harshly, saying to deal with the Kamado siblings later. The important thing was that the water Hashira, Tomioka Ju, had protected them. As a Hashira, he had gone against the organization's rules, and the swordsman would follow his bad example, so he should be dealt with first. The insect Hashira, Kosho Shinobu, said that he had followed her back to the headquarters anyway, so his punishment could be dealt with later. She wanted to hear the boy's story first. Tanjiro immediately opened his mouth to explain, but his throat was sore. Shinobu gave the boy a sip of water containing a painkiller. Tanjiro could then speak clearly. Nezuko is my sister. My family was killed by a demon. Even though Nezuko turned into a demon, she has never eaten a human from then until now and will not in the future. The girl immediately interrupted, saying that it was natural for family members to protect each other. I don't believe in such nonsense. Himajima shed tears again. This child is possessed by a demon. We must kill this poor child to free it. Tanjiro still tried to explain. Because he wanted to save his sister, he became a swordsman. And in the past 2 years, his sister had never eaten a human. Uzui cursed directly. Talking in circles says no point. This idiot, if you're so good, prove it. Mitsuri said that they should wait for the master to arrive to resolve it. Handling it themselves was a bit inappropriate. Tanjiro still tried to continue, saying that the two siblings had fought side by side, protecting people as demon slayers. The Wind Hashira, Shinazugawa Sanemi, approached with the box in his hand. Despite his older sister from the hidden members begging him to stop, Shinobu said sternly, "Don't act on your own. Wait for the master to arrive." But Sanemi wouldn't. Let the matter of a swordsman and a demon going around protecting people rest. No way. And he drew his sword and stabbed Nezuko. Tanjiro angrily rushed forward. "If you harm my sister, even if you are a Hashira, I will not spare you." Chu announced that the master was about to appear. Sanemi lost his focus and received a heavenly headbutt from Tanjiro. Mitsuri accidentally laughed and then whispered an apology, attracting everyone's attention. Tanjiro immediately sat down. To shield his sister, the girl was still observing from above, despite Tomioka's intervention. The truth is, that kid still made Sanemi's nose bleed with his headbutt. He's not an ordinary person. Tanjiro said in a low voice. "You can't even distinguish between good demons and bad demons, and you dare to call yourself a Hashira." Sanemi laughed cruelly, put his sword to his neck, and was about to finish off this insolent brat when the master appeared. Tanjiro turned around and looked up. He saw that the master had a strange face. Was it from an injury? No, it seemed to be a disease. Immediately, Tanjiro's head was pushed to the ground. He opened his eyes and saw that everyone was kneeling neatly to greet the master. The Wind Hashira spoke first. "It is a pleasure to see you in good health. I wish you boundless happiness and a long life," which made Mitsuri admire him endlessly, because she also wanted to greet the master and have him reply, "Thank you, my child." Sanemi asked him about these two kids. The master replied that he had accepted Tanjiro and Nezuko, and hoped that the children would also agree. The entire Hashira was stunned and then divided into two factions, those who agreed and those who opposed. There were 5 out of 9 Hashira who did not agree with the master's thinking. Himejima, the eldest of the Hashira, said that although the master had approved, he could not understand. Uzui also flashily opposed, not accepting such a paradoxical matter. Rengoku said clearly that he respected the master from the bottom of his heart, but because he could not understand his thinking, he completely opposed. The girl had always hated demons and would never trust such a cold-blooded species. Sanemi was the one to seal the deal, asking the master to behead the demon and the law-breaking brat. So, to strengthen the faith of the Hashira, whom he cherished as his own children, and to give a reasonable explanation for his decision to make an exception, which was almost the first and only time in the history of the Demon Slayer Corps. His daughter read a letter from the former water Hashira, Yurikodaki, to the master. The letter clearly stated, "Please spare the Kamado siblings." Nezuko had never eaten a human. She was a rare and extraordinary thing, almost an exceptional miracle. She only slept to maintain her energy and never touched the flesh and blood of the mortal world. Therefore, please spare these two poor children. If in the future the girl were to massacre innocent people, there would be 3 people. Kamado Tanjiro, Yurikodaki Sakanji, and Tomioka Ju, who would commit seppuku to atone for their sins. Tanjiro suddenly burst into tears because of the great kindness that Master Yurikodaki and Jusen had shown him. The last sentence seemed to pierce a bitter sadness into everyone's heart. However, Sanemi immediately retorted, "It's natural to pay for murder with one's life. But can the lives of innocent people be brought back? If you like dying so much, then just die." Rengoku agreed with Sanemi. Murder cannot be undone. The dead cannot be brought back. The master understood that there was no clear proof that Nezuko would not attack humans in the future, but he continued, saying that there was also no proof that she would eat humans. This left Sanemi and Kyojuro temporarily speechless. There was one more thing. The master said that Tanjiro had encountered Kibutsuji Musen. This made the entire Hashira amazed. A brat had met the Demon King. The whole group scrambled to get the details. Where did he meet him? How did he meet him? What did he look like? It was so chaotic that the master had to signal for order. For the first time, Musen had to show himself and send his subordinates to hunt down Tanjiro. He was afraid that something had happened to Nezuko that Musen had not expected. But Sanemi was still determined not to understand. He could spare the person, but not the demon. How many comrades have fallen to demons? How many innocent people have died in pain? He cut his hand to let his precious blood flow into the box, determined to make this demon reveal its bloodthirsty nature. Obanai said that demons don't come out during the day. They are afraid of the sun. So Sanemi apologized for his rudeness and jumped into the house. Sure enough, Nezuko slowly came out of the box, faced with the enchanting temptation of human blood, and the most delicious kind at that. How would Nezuko react? Tanjiro wanted to rush forward but was held down by Obanai. The entire Hashira watched intently the trial of the demon girl Nezuko. Tanjiro screamed and broke the ropes. Ju held Obanai's hand back. So Tanjiro successfully escaped the grip and went to the porch. He called Nezuko's name. His sister seemed to see before her eyes the memory of that snowy day, her brother protecting her from the Hashira's blade, saying you are different from the evil demons, and also the happy memories with her family, the gentle eyes of her parents, the pure smiles of her younger siblings, and the gentleness of her eldest brother. Humans are your family. Nezuko remembered that and turned her face away, refusing the fresh blood that was calling to her. So it was proven. The master told Tanjiro, from now on, you and Nezuko must fight to help the organization to gain everyone's trust. Tanjiro immediately bowed his head in gratitude. He said he would definitely defeat Kibutsuji Musen with Nezuko. We will break this 1,000-year chain of sorrow. The master said gently, not now. Try to behead a 12 Kazuki first, which made him blush with embarrassment, and so the Hashira couldn't help but laugh. He said Sanemi and Obanai shouldn't be too strict with children. So everything ended here. Shinobu called someone to take Tanjiro to the butterfly mansion for treatment, but the boy really wanted to give that scar person a few more iron headbutts. At this time, Miuchiro, who had not been paying attention, threw a few stones at him. Don't interrupt when the master is speaking. So he obediently went on the support horse back to the butterfly mansion. In the mansion full of fluttering butterflies, there was a girl. She was Shinobu's successor, named Tsuyuri Kaneo. Tanjiro realized that she was the female friend from the past selection test. She was a girl, but really good. At this time, the girl with 2 pigtails appeared behind them and then led Tanjiro to the sick room. It just so happened that he met Zenitsu and Inosuke again, who were also there. Zenitsu was poisoned, so his limbs were shrunken, and after taking medicine for a while, he would recover as before. Inosuke was a bit more seriously injured. His throat was torn, so he couldn't talk much. Tanjiro apologized because if he had come back to help, his friend would not have been so seriously injured. Inosuke suddenly said sorry, because I'm weak, which surprised his two friends, who quickly cheered up the boar god. Why are you so down? My friend is not like usual at all. Tanjiro felt very lucky that his two friends were still alive. As the sun gradually set, Nezuko crawled out of the box. Tanjiro thanked his sister for sacrificing herself to save him in the battle last night. He told her about how his master and Jusen had risked their lives for them, about his deep gratitude to them and to the master, whose voice soothed souls and had also spared their lives. Tanjiro looked at his sister, who had already fallen asleep, and said that no matter how painful and heartbreaking it was, he still had to try, because one day he would grow up and get old and die, and then the demon Nezuko would have to live alone. Very lonely. Big brother will definitely turn you back into a human. Meanwhile, the Hashira meeting took place in the master's residence. The Demon Slayer course was short on manpower, but what they needed was quality over quantity. That kid from this morning seems pretty good, Rengoku agreed, to have just joined the Demon Slayer course and already encountered a 12 Kazuki. I'm truly a little envious of that child's rare opportunity. The master pondered. The demons are still freely preying on humans. For those who have fallen, there is only one thing we can do. He believed that the Hashira here were the most elite generation since the age of the first breath-wielding swordsman. During the Sengoku period, Uzui Tengen, Rengoku Kyojuro, Kosho Shinobu, Kanroji Mitsuri, Tokido Miuchiro, Himeji Magyome, Shinazugawa Sanemi, Aguro Obanai, Tomioka Ju. I have high expectations for your success. When the lights were out, the master sat there with an unwavering determination, certain that they would defeat Kibutsuji Musen. The flame Hashira, Rengoku Kyojuro, took his leave from the master. To accept his mission, the insect Hashira, Shinobu, approached to inquire. According to Kyojuro, the situation was extremely serious. It seemed to be a 12 Kazuki, but with Rengoku-san providing support, everything would be fine. The flame Hashira asked about his successor, and Shinobu said she wouldn't take Tanjiro away, so the flame Hashira laughed heartily and turned to leave. His cloak billowed in the wind as he went into battle. Shinobu only said one thing, take care. Tanjiro took his medicine every day and gradually got better. Today, Murata came to visit them, telling them how he was saved by Shinobu-sama. Murata was traumatized, remembering the gossip of the Hashira. What's this about swordsmen declining these days, and even disobeying orders? Why are the Hashira talking to me about this? The Hashira are too scary. But unexpectedly, Shinobu was standing right behind him. Murata is bad-mouthing the Hashira. What a nerve. But Shinobu didn't mind. As for him, he quickly excused himself. Tanjiro said that the three of them were better now, and so Shinobu had the kids start their functional recovery training. Zenitsu's limbs hadn't recovered yet, so he couldn't start, while his two friends had to get to work. Zenitsu still remembered how Shinobu treated those who had been turned into spiders. She looked like a goddess. Then he saw his two friends return, more battered than before. The exercises must have been terrible. But on the day Zenitsu went to practice, he screamed. It was clearly a paradise there. The reflex exercises were amazing and Kaneo was their opponent. But before that, Zenitsu had beaten his two friends to a pulp, with his lecherous, nonsensical words. Please let's skip this part. Well, to the point, Zenitsu's reflex training was good, but being too perverted gets you punched. However, in the reflex game alone, all three lost to Kaneo. She exuded a much more classy scent than the boys. Tanjiro couldn't understand why he kept losing. The three little girls at the mansion told him, and then he knew that he needed to maintain total concentration breathing day and night. And Tanjiro trained like that, although it was so difficult at first that he thought he would ascend to heaven, but over time it got better day by day. That night, Tanjiro meditated on the roof. He was so focused that he didn't realize Shinobu was nearby. She struck up a conversation. Tanjiro wondered, why did you bring the three of us here? Shinobu replied that Nezuko's existence was recognized, the three of them needed to heal, and she could entrust her dream to Tanjiro, the dream of befriending demons. Tanjiro noticed the scent of anger from Shinobu. She was startled. It was true. It was always like that. Shinobu said bitterly that ever since her sister was killed by a demon, witnessing the tears of those who had their loved ones taken by demons, or hearing their desperate screams, the resentment in Shinobu seemed to pile up. Deep down, she always had a relentless hatred, and it grew with each passing year. Surely the other Hashira felt the same way. However, this was the first time they had witnessed a demon that did not eat humans and remembered its presence. The master wanted it this way. No one would touch Nezuko. She would be safe, Shinobu continued. Her sister was a kind and benevolent person like Tanjiro. She sympathized with demons. Even before she passed away, she still pitied them. But Shinobu couldn't be like that. Pity a man-eating demon? How foolish. But if that was her sister's feeling, Shinobu would keep it to herself so as not to extinguish the smile she had always cherished. Shinobu vowed to wear a perfect smile, so fake yet so gentle. But she was getting a little tired because demons were a bunch of selfish, cruel liars. Shinobu stood up and told Tanjiro to do his best to protect Nezuko well. Seeing him trying his best for her made her feel at ease, and then she left. Tanjiro stayed behind, continuing his concentration breathing, remembering his family who had died in pain. He promised to turn Nezuko back into a human. Tanjiro took a whip and gave it to the 3 little girls, asking them to help him train. If he didn't concentrate on his breathing at night, just whip him. And the truth is, the girls beat him awake. Today, only Tanjiro came to practice because Zenitsu and Inosuke had run away. He trained from morning till evening without a break, until he almost won the reflex test. Seeing Tanjiro training so hard, Zenitsu and Inosuke also felt they needed to act. They couldn't just stay where they were. The two went to Shinobu for guidance, and so, their training of total concentration breathing day and night began. Shinobu asked Kaneo why she didn't join her friends in training. The girl just bowed her head and stood from a distance, flipping a coin. Kaneo's past was filled with abuse. She had gone through days of hunger, sadness, and hopelessness to the point where she no longer felt anything. Being beaten or sold didn't make her sad. That day, on the bridge, Kani and Shinobu had bought the dirty child. Shinobu bathed her, and the helped her change into beautiful clothes. But then Shinobu was helpless, telling her sister, "This girl is so strange. She only does what she's told. She can't be spontaneous. She doesn't even know to eat when she's hungry." Kani said that she liked Shinobu's smile. "Don't frown. When given a chance, people will open up to each other, so don't worry." Kani gave Kaneo a coin. Returning to the present, Kaneo still held the coin in her hand. Meanwhile, Tanjiro called Inosuke to get his new sword. Haganazuka immediately ran over him, wanting to skewer Tanjiro for daring to break his precious sword. Tanjiro apologized and ran around, otherwise he would have been really stabbed. The other person explained that Haganazuka loved swords so much that he acted that way, and he introduced himself as Kanamori, the one who had finished forging Inosuke's sword. Before they could even talk, Inosuke was seen using a stone to chip the sword. That's what you call the wild style of the king of the forest. Tanjiro held Kanamori back with all his might, otherwise a murder might have occurred there. Tanjiro bowed his head and apologized on behalf of his panther. In the following days, Tanjiro's speed increased dramatically. He defeated Kaneo in all the training exercises. Zenitsu and Inosuke couldn't be outdone. They had to train even more. Tanjiro went to Shinobu's clinic. It seemed he had fully recovered. Tanjiro asked her if she knew about the Hinokami Kagura. Unfortunately, no. What about the breath of fire? Shinobu had only heard of the breath of flame, but had never seen a breath of fire. Perhaps Rengoku-sen knew more about this, but he was away on a mission. Tanjiro returned to see Nezuko sleeping soundly. He told his sister that he was about to go on a new mission, and maybe Zenitsu and Inosuke would go with him. "I have to try harder to get a blood sample." Suddenly, he heard his sister say a sentence. "Big brother will be fine." Tanjiro seemed to be comforted somehow. He was sure he could do it. The train ran through the night. What terrifying force was waiting for them on it? A few months ago, a summons for all lower moons to the Infinity Castle by the sound of a biwa from a female demon. They all realized that there were some they had never met in their lives. Only lower 5 had not yet arrived. Then they saw a female demon in a black kimono with red eyes looking down. She ordered them all to bow their heads and obey. Immediately, they all knelt down. It was the voice of Lord Muzan, but the appearance and aura were completely different. His ability to disguise was truly amazing. Lower 5 Rui had been beheaded by a Hashira. Muzan questioned why the lower moons were so weak now. Today's meeting was to eliminate them all. This was a purge. Muzan's blood feast began and ended in a flash. No one could escape. Only lower 1 and Mu, with his extreme devotion to Muzan, was given a chance by the demon lord to prove that he was useful. Muzan gave him a lot of blood and ordered him to kill all the Hashira. If he could kill the swordsman with the Hanafuda earrings, he would be rewarded with even more blood. And Mu was ecstatic and fell from the Infinity Castle. He would definitely kill the Hashira and that brat. Before dawn, the crow called the Kamaboko squad to wake up. The casualties on the Infinity train were increasing. More than 40 people were missing. The main mission was to support Rengoku Kyojuro. Heading west, they met Shinobu, who had recommended him to the master for this mission. Tanjiro's family uses the breath of fire. Maybe if he goes with Rengoku-san, the boy will find the right path. Tanjiro was excited about the upcoming mission and met his scarred friend from the selection test. Only a few months had passed, but he had grown so much taller. Tanjiro greeted him loudly, but the person didn't even turn his head. He greeted Aoi, since he was about to leave. He thanked her and everyone for their dedication over the past time. Aoi said that there was no need to thank her. She was lucky to have survived the selection test and was too scared to fight with a sword. She was just a coward. Tanjiro said not to mind that. Aoi had helped him, he cherished her feelings, and would take them to the battlefield. Tanjiro also greeted Kaneo. He found it strange that she was flipping a coin. It was the first time he had ever seen her speak. Kaneo said she didn't know what to decide, so she let the coin decide for her. So Tanjiro snatched the coin and said, from now on, should Kaneo listen to her own heart? If it's heads, you have to live according to what your heart wants. And it was indeed heads. Tanjiro said goodbye to Kaneo. She asked how he knew the coin was heads. Tanjiro smiled like the sun and said that if it were tails, he would have flipped it until it was heads. From then on, the sun shone in Kaneo's heart. Had Kaneo fallen in love at first sight? Tanjiro said goodbye to his friend and left. The news of Kamaboko blowing up the giant gourd has spread. He took the rice balls for the road and said he would do his best. He caught a glimpse of Tomioka-san standing in front and ran to thank him for Nezuko's matter. Ji replied, if you want to thank me, then do your job properly. The mission of a demon slayer is to destroy demons. Then he disappeared. The three of them said goodbye to the little girls and left. Inosuke and Tanjiro, mountain people, saw a train for the first time and thought it was a strange creature, which made Zenitsu helpless. Inosuke even headbutted it, causing a commotion that attracted the police's attention. They saw three kids with swords and chased after them. After all, it was the Taisho era, and social order was very strict. The two, Tanjiro and Zenitsu, then carried Inosuke and ran away in a panic. Warhead grumbled why they were afraid of the police. Because the Demon Slayer Corps was not recognized by the government. It was just a self-organized group, operating outside the law. They couldn't just carry swords around openly. In short, hide the sword behind your back. Well, Inosuke was scared, hiding it as if not hiding it at all. The train was about to leave, and Inosuke and Tanjiro quickly jumped on and pulled Zenitsu up with them. Inosuke was extremely excited by the dizzying speed of the strange creature called a train. Zenitsu asked why Tanjiro didn't leave his sister at the headquarters. He replied that he and Nezuko would never be separated again. The flame Hashira, Rengoku Kyojuro, was on the train. What was waiting for them ahead? Was it glory or tragedy? Happiness and sorrow? A sweet dream and a cruel reality? The train continued to run through the silent night, and then became a part of the memories that followed Tanjiro for the rest of his life.